Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're looking at the Marvel Legends Apocalypse figure. This is obviously not the Build-A-Figure, it is the 6-inch one, well, 1/12 scale version, and it is definitely not the classic look for Apocalypse. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't particularly like this figure just because it's the design for Apocalypse that I don't like at all. That being said, the figure is not particularly bad. It's actually a pretty decent figure. It's just probably, what I'm going to guess, is not a popular design for Apocalypse, so I'm not sure why they chose it. Let's look at him. He stands about 7.5 inches tall, and he's rather thick, so he's a very good size figure for being just one of the regular run-of-the-mill figures, so that's pretty cool. I don't believe he shares a sculpt with any other figure. I think everything on him is unique to him, so that's a huge bonus. He has some paint. He could use a little bit more, I think, some shading perhaps, but he does have the silver parts in here, which do have a black wash. He's got black parts in there. A little variation throughout the body. His tubers are painted and washed, and then he has, excuse me, a fairly decent paint job on the head. So that's always a bonus when we get some nice paintwork. He does have some shading on the boots, by the way. So the paintwork's pretty good. The sculpt, like I said, it's unique. I do wish that his chest was much bigger. His chest is very narrow for the size of his arms and shoulders, and even compared to his lower torso, he's got a very narrow chest, so that's kind of just makes him look a little awkward, but it's still not horrible. So he's got a pretty good sculpt. Let's talk articulation. The head, though mine is really stiff, I can't move it too much, is on a disc, so it can look up and down. It'll go a little bit for you. It does go a lot more normally. This one's stuck for some reason. It'll swivel on top of that as well, and in addition, the neck swivels too. So that's pretty cool. It's a little extra piece of articulation, which helps him to look a little more natural when posing. He's got soft shoulder pads, so the shoulder articulation is not limited to too much. He does have the ball hinge, so standard ball hinge from Marvel Legends. If you'll notice, the sculpt carries through up into the armpit, so that's really nice. You don't see that a lot, so I do appreciate that. He does have a bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, not quite 90 degrees, but he's a big guy, so I'll let it slide this time. His wrist swivels, his thumb has a hinge, his index finger has a hinge, and the rest of his 3 fingers have a hinge. Whether that's useful or not, I'll leave that up to you. I would definitely just leave it in a fist though if it was up to me. This side, same hinging but different shape of a hand, so you can't really do too much with it other than pointing or maybe scratching if you want to make him scratch somebody, or he could use this pose to put his finger somewhere. I don't know where. That's up for you to decide as well. So he's got a pointy finger hand, so that's not ideal. A fist or an open hand would have been much better, I think, but what are you going to do? For the torso, he's got a waist swivel, so that's nice. No problems there, except he also has this weird diaphragm joint. I don't think he was meant to have a mechanism of any sort, but it's kind of like spring-loaded, and it doesn't really serve a purpose. I mean, you can kind of get it stuck so that it doesn't snap back in place, but it pretty much will. So I don't know if that was meant to be a gimmicky mechanism or not. It really doesn't serve a purpose as far as I can tell. So I don't get that at all, but it's there. So it's kind of a downside for me. The hips, T-jointed ball hinge hips. The ball hinges are actually sculpted, so that's pretty cool. It keeps them from standing out too much. I mean, obviously you can see them, but it looks like it's part of the sculpt rather than just a piece of articulation. And then, of course, they have pretty good range of motion for a big guy too, so that's nice. Thigh swivel built in. Double jointed knees. Not the prettiest joint since he's so thick, but it does work. And he does have an ankle pivot, an ankle rocker, and a toe pivot. So pretty good batch of articulation on this guy, even a little more than necessary in the torso and the hands, so can't complain about that. Sculpt is good aside from the narrow chest, and the paints are good aside from maybe a little more shading, but still this nice metallic blue looks good, and I like the contrast of the silver in there as well, so it's pretty cool. His little tubers do pop out if you want them to. I don't know why you would want to, but they do. One thing to note is they don't spin with his upper body. they stay at his waist, so they may get in the way a little bit because they stay down there and the upper body still moves. I've never had a problem with it, and in fact that's how I made my custom one as well, and it's worked out just fine for me, so I don't really think that's a problem. Lastly, he comes with a pretty cool looking base, some really nice sculpting details and some decent paint details, so that's pretty nice, though the pegs don't stick up as much as they should sometimes, like this one. And it's covered in rubber. I don't know why they did that. It's this hard plastic with the pegs in it, and the rest is this rubber material. Not sure what's up with that, but either way it looks pretty cool. So there it is, guys. There's the Apocalypse figure. Like I said, it's not my favorite design for Apocalypse by any means, but it's a pretty darn good figure, and if you're an X-Men fan, you should probably pick it up. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. In the meantime, keep collecting.